He looks like he owns credit. Oh my gosh. Man like Arthur from Batman.
Namaste. Dzień dobry. Assalamu alaikum. Ciao, konnichiwa, bonjour, hola. Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Ken at 10, as usual, coming to you from Norbury in Southwest 16, where the weather is kind of overcast and a little bit drab, to be frank, for the middle of July. Well, not the middle of July, but early July. We expect some sunshine, don't we? And it's just not there. How are you? Hope you're well today. A few things I noticed in the news, a few things you'll be aware of that are a little bit depressing, really. The average 5-year fixed rate has risen above 6% for the first time, causing pain, of course, for a lot of people. It's climbed to 6.01%, adding 1,488 to a typical £200,000 mortgage. Well, here in London, the mortgages are a lot higher, and therefore the pressure is a lot more. So really tough out there. John Charcoal said most big high street lenders have already made substantial increases to their rates, but they're also doing that rocket and feather thing where they're, very quick to put up rates for people that are borrowing and very slow to put up rates for those that are saving. And that just seems really quite cynical in such tough times, doesn't it? Sunak has acknowledged that he's having difficulty curbing inflation due to fixed rate mortgages. And this is a point, isn't it? Is that you can put up rates all you like, but if you're on a fixed rate mortgage, it's not impacting you in the slightest. So the idea that by quickly putting up rates again and again has a massive impact perhaps is a misconception or a bad idea these days, because the market dynamics have changed in that way. Most people are on fixed rates, and many people, this won't impact until maybe a year or two. And by then it could be too late for, many people, many jobs, and many people that are on the edge financially. London has suffered a huge drop in available properties to rent. Well, we've said it was coming for a long time, but now the evidence is there. London Evening Standard says in a study by the LSE and Savills, there's a 41% drop in available properties, and the reduction distance is accompanied by a 20% increases in asking price on lettings, particularly around the Westminster, Kensington, Chelsea areas. They're worst affected. But Darren Rodwell for the Regeneration Housing Planning at London Council said this research is the latest evidence of how the capital's broken housing market is worsening the unsustainable and increasingly unmanageable pressures we face in London. And then on from that, doubling up with that, in The Guardian, it says dozens of renters staged a protest against rampant profiteering outside the National Landlord Investment Show. And this shows a real misconception of the problem, doesn't it? When we've got interest rates going up, and that means landlords having to pay more out just to break even, just to stand still, they need to increase rates in line with the interest rates they're paying. Otherwise, for many landlords, in fact, many landlords are going backwards. And that's why we've seen a huge reduction in the number of available properties. Many landlords are offloading. That, together with the biggest error the government ever made, which was Section 24, actually doing away with the ability of landlords to receive tax relief on their interest payments. Another thing I saw that was really sad, you've probably heard about this already. Captain Tom's charity, it's ordered the local council has ordered the demolition of Hannah Ingram Moore, the daughter of the late Captain Moore, who raised 40 million for the NHS, and then in the name of Tom has got herself a big spa and pool complex. I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable. Poor Tom would turn in his grave. He knew what you did, young lady. Absolutely disgraceful. Apparently, we're the only G7 nation where inflation is rising as well, which is weird, isn't it? But hopefully that will start falling soon. We hope. Long-term swap rates are still high, and so it doesn't look like it's coming down as yet, but we are ever hopeful, as always. Funny thing is, not a massive effect on the housing market so far, and people are asking why. And the reason why is a lack of available stock. Buyers are a bit more discerning, then don't have that sense of urgency for sure, but many people are deciding to stay put rather than move because they're worried about the market. And this actually brings about two problems. Number one, if people stay put, then people coming into the area look at the available stock and realize there's not much available, so don't put their own house on the market, and it goes around in a circle, so no one sells. And then what happens is we are trading on much lower volumes. So although, yes, there is a tough market ahead on the one hand, on the other hand, there's a real lack of supply that is only really supported by death, debt and divorce, the 3 Ds. And they're the things that we're finding most of all the reasons why people are selling. Debt is not too bad at the moment, frankly, in the sense of we're not seeing that many people come along and say, I can't afford my mortgage anymore. I'm pleased to report. But death, always going to happen, I'm afraid, and similarly divorce. So those two things are reasons why we are receiving instructions on various properties, particularly people passing. Really sad to say, this December just gone, I never had so many people pass at that time of year. I don't know why it is. You'd think post-COVID it wouldn't be so bad, but certainly we have had a lot of people passing, and therefore a lot of probate valuations, which will come to market second half of this year and hopefully benefit a new family moving in. But I think that's why we're seeing a lack of supply. And of course, on top of that, the rental crisis is increasing. I've said for some time that it's probably the biggest crisis that this nation faces, and has faced for a long time. And I don't see an end to it, apart from eventually the government realizing and seeing the light that the small landlord plays a significant role in this. And you can't just rely on the likes of John Lewis to take up that huge gap that we're creating in the number of available properties versus number of tenants looking. We do need government support. We need government building. And we also need the small landlord to be encouraged to stay in the sector or expand in the sector so there's more supply, because supply is the way that you bring prices down, by having enough available for those that are looking. And that's the only way this ends, I'm afraid. And so that's one of the reasons why, people say, well, why should I invest in property? Well, one of the reasons is that in tough times like today, when inflation is going up, property is one of the only things that keeps pace or beats inflation. And therefore, if you're prepared to be gutsy and take the risk when others aren't, then you reap the rewards in times like this. So there are landlords now that have no mortgages and are seeing their rents increase rapidly. And frankly, they took the risk when they first purchased the property. And you may say, well, they were in a lucky position, or, just fell into it. And that's true of some. But by the same token, they didn't have to keep hold of the property. They could have sold it, kept the cash, and used that cash in another way. They chose to use it as a business, because that's what it is when you rent your property out. It changes from your family home into a business. And if they've taken that risk and it's paid off, I don't see why they shouldn't have done that. And I don't see why, if they hadn't have done that, it would somehow improve the rental market, because actually that would just lessen supply and exacerbate the crisis. So I think there's a lot of misconception about it being the landlord's fault that we are where we are. I think it goes back to a lot of other factors. But apart from that, we have got to go off to evaluation for probate today for a solicitor that's recommended us. We get a lot of that, actually. A lot of solicitors recommend us. And I've got a Homes Under the Hammer this week, which is nice. We're back for Homes Under the Hammer in Croydon. And nice to be back out with them. Don't know when it's broadcast. As always, you do these things, and sometimes it's a year or so before we actually get the broadcast from the original filming. And this is a first look. So what happens? We have the first look, then of course the developer has to go in, develop the property, then we get the second look, and only when the second look is finalized do we then have any idea when it's coming out. And sometimes it's months later, and sometimes it can be a year or two. It's quite extraordinary, really. So apart from that, I hope you have a good day. Thanks for watching as always. If you're thinking of selling or renting, we're here for you. We've got your back on that. That's what we do. Give us a call. If you just need some general advice, we're here for you. 0208 679 8601. Give us a call. We're always around. Or drop me an email, ken@jamesalexander.com. Thanks for watching as always. Look after yourselves, and if you can, your family and friends. Ciao.